Hey there. I wanted to do a video specifically for stretching postpartum. So just going over a couple of stretches that you may need postpartum to help with some of the tight areas that you may not even realize that you have. So we're going to start with, and this is in addition to the postpartum exercise video that you can look back at. These are just some extra stretches. We're going to start off with a standing stretch for the front and through here, the hip flexors. So part of the diastasis recti program shows what's called a Bulgarian lunge or a split squat. It's called many different names. So we're going to use this as a hip flexor stretch. I'm going to use this chair where I'm going to prop my foot against it. So also, you don't want to just go straight into stretching. You want to make sure that you are warmed up, or this is post-workout, or you have done 5 minutes of just some simple walking around just to warm up the muscles before you do a static stretch. So if you're in a standing position, I'm going to prop my foot on this chair, and this may even be too intense for you. Let me start with this front leg so you can see it a little bit better. Reaching back for that. You can also, if you're too tight, you can start off on something lower like a step, but I'm just going to stand up really tall, take some good deep breaths. And what you'll probably feel is a pretty intense stretch in through here. You want to make sure that you are squeezing your glutes, bringing your hip forward, and that you're not in this anterior tilt position. So you want to be in this position. Breathe. You can intensify that stretch by coming up and going over without sacrificing the position of the pelvis. Take some deep breaths. Expand that rib cage. Hold for about 30 seconds. So I'm going to take this into a half kneeling position so you can also see that stretch as well. Staying on the same side. Down on the ground. Half kneeling position. I'm going to lean forward. Again, you want to make sure that you're squeezing the glutes, trying to avoid the anterior pelvic tilt. And you can do the same thing if you have balance in this position, coming up and over. Good. Okay, so both sides, stretch the hip flexors, whether that be in standing or in this half kneeling position. There are a variety of ways to stretch your hip flexor. Those are just two that I thought would be, one, safe, two, you're not going to compromise anything in the low back. Now, next thing is to do some groin stretching. So you don't necessarily get all the adductor muscles when you're stretching the hip flexor. So the first thing I'm going to do is just a dynamic stretch. Doing a lateral lunge side to side. You could have the chair in front of you if you wanted to, just to have something to hold on to, so that you could also get deeper into that stretch. You can reach the arm, whether it be same arm or opposite arm, to the foot, just to get a good stretch in there. Now, you could also, I'm just going to put this to the side where you can see, use this as a static stretch, holding in whatever position you can. Breathing through it. For about 15 seconds. And in the pregnancy workouts, there are videos for goddess pose, which also opens up this area as well. So good lateral lunge. Now we'll go to the floor for the next stretch. Okay, so previously, when in pregnancy videos, it may be that you were propped up against a pillow working on this position. This time we're going to get a little more intense with it. We're going to bring those feet together as best you can. Sitting up, I'm using my ankles to sit up super tall. Doing some of my diaphragmatic breathing in this position. If you need support from the wall, that's fine too. Trying to let the knees drop down. If you feel comfortable with this butterfly pose or butterfly stretch, you can kind of give a little pressure to the outside of the knees. Make sure you're holding this for anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. Come back. You should not feel any kind of pain in the low back when you're performing this exercise. Just a nice gentle stretch. Breathing through it. The stretch shouldn't feel like something's going to rip. It shouldn't be painful. It should just feel like a really good deep stretch. Okay, now we're going to go into a little bit more intense sciatic nerve or piriformis stretch. We're going to do a pigeon pose. So with the pigeon pose, depending on where you are, we're going to be in this position. And you'll notice that my pigeon pose is pretty weak. Okay, so there are a couple of different ways that you can have this leg. This would be a starting position. So I'm getting a stretch in the front of this hip flexor of the back leg, and then I'm feeling the glute on the other side. So if you're more advanced, which I am not, you can have this more at a 90-degree angle and come down. Now, what I'm doing wrong is I'm leaning away from it when I want to lean into, stay pretty centered over this leg. So if you can't stay centered, you just need to stay in this position and hold this. Breathe. You can come down and kind of lean into that leg, into that knee, trying to place the chest on the knee without sacrificing the position of the back leg. Okay, so that's your pigeon pose. Remember, if you're uncomfortable with that, you can be in this position. It's still very effective. Okay, so that's kind of a twofer because you're also getting that hip flexor stretch as well. Now, just to remind you of the piriformis stretch and add a little bit to the piriformis stretch if you aren't doing it where you're rocking with it. So I'm going to have one leg crossed over. I'm going to bring this up. Now, here's the difference in what some people are doing. They just pull up and hold. What I want you to do is flex the foot of the crossed leg. This leg is relaxed. Come over and back. Over. So you're just moving 1 to 2 inches to intensify that stretch a little bit. Stretching is wonderful as you get stronger in the muscle groups that are weak. Some of these areas that feel like they're super tight will start to get better as well. in addition to adding the stretching to your program. All right, so I'm going to switch sides just so you can see that from a different angle. Crossing over, flexing the foot. And we're going to go away and come back. Little added pressure on this knee with the elbow. If you can get to it, we'll intensify that just a little bit more. These are just 3 areas of stretching. There are so many areas that you could stretch, but these are probably the main 3 that I would focus on post-pregnancy. Have a good day.